Now, when I did these rankings before the NFL draft, I definitely said that I think the NFL draft will take a wrecking ball to these rankings, and really that's exactly what happened. Like the top 5, top 6 guys, they're really where they originally were, but a lot of these other guys in like the bottom 15, there are going to be a lot of new guys on this list right here. So let's go through the final top 20 Dynasty rookie rankings for the 2024 class that I will do in 2024. And of course, this is a new channel exclusively for Dynasty. So please go down there and drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel to show your support if you get value from this video today. And make sure to watch and lock yourself in because there's going to be a big announcement at some point in this video. So at number 1 and 2, they're in the same tier again. They didn't move. Marvin Harrison Jr. and Caleb Williams both got drafted to teams that I really thought they would get drafted to. And again, keep in mind, this is going to be Superflex rankings. I still prefer Marvin Harrison Jr. I just think he's, like, when it comes to the upside of both these players, yeah, if Caleb Williams hits exactly how he could, he'll provide more upside because he'll have a longer career theoretically. And he'll provide more fantasy points per game. But when it comes to Marvin, I think he's just a more solid prospect. I believe in Marvin the player more. He went to the landing spot I wanted him to go to. Arizona with Kyler Murray, the clear wide receiver 1, and a guy who's pro ready right away. Can't see him being outside of number 1 for me personally, because Caleb Williams, there still is the question of what Chicago does with him. I'm sorry to Bears fans, but it's historically known Bears just don't really have many successful quarterbacks when it comes to passing volume. So Caleb Williams could be the guy who bucks that trend. I sure like him to be. I like the prospect and I like the weapons he has around him, but there still is that level of uncertainty there that puts me here at number 2 with Caleb Williams. Jaden Daniels at 3 and Malik Neighbors at 4. So Jaden Daniels goes top 2 to Washington and Rome Odunze goes to the Chicago Bears. So with Jaden Daniels, it's like, the reason I think that I have more hope for Jaden Daniels than I do with a guy like Drake May, who we'll get into here in a little bit. The reason I have more hope for him is it's an entirely new team. New ownership, new coaching staff. They gutted that entire franchise. So everybody in that front office is brand new. So that, at least it's better than what we saw with the dysfunction for the past like 2 decades. It's better than that. So all we can do is go up from here. So Jaden Daniels comes to do a new landing spot, a totally new team with weapons that I do think are viable. Like, I don't love Terry McLaurin, I don't love Jahan Dotson, I don't love Luke McCaffrey, but I do think that they're viable enough to help him, because the ultimate good thing here, the golden part of Jaden Daniels, he has the rushing upside. So yeah, he's here at number 3 for me. And then Malik Neighbors at 4. I debated, like, after the draft, like, how will I rank him and Rome Odunze? Because I like Rome's landing spot with Chicago better. But Malik Neighbors to the Giants, the only reason that I can't really move these guys is because they were so close originally. And I do believe that Malik Neighbors sees more volume right away than Rome Odunze does. And I don't think it's definitely not set in stone that Daniel Jones, their long-term answer at quarterback. So the chances that we see a new quarterback next year for Malik Neighbors, I would say are actually pretty high. They wanted to mortgage their future to get Drake May this year, so they're going to want to get a new quarterback at some point. They're trying to move off Daniel Jones. But either way, Malik Neighbors just doesn't move for me. He's going to be above Rome Odunze, who's at number 5, because Rome Odunze, again, I like the landing spot better than I like the Giants landing spot. But the problem with Rome Odunze is there's now 3 alpha wide receiver 1s. DJ Moore is an alpha wide receiver 1. Keenan Allen, even though he's older, has been and was just last year an alpha wide receiver 1. Rome Odunze in Washington was the alpha. So 3 alphas in one room. It can get a little messy, but I think that Rome Odunze long term, because we know they're not going to have Keenan Allen for more than 2 years probably at most. So the long term here with Rome Odunze, I think there's a lot of upside, especially if Caleb Williams hits like I think he's going to. JJ McCarthy at 6 and Brock Bowers at 7. JJ McCarthy's the big riser for me. And it comes as no secret. I did a video last week of guys who now have elite upside in Dynasty, and JJ McCarthy was on that list because I see so much there with Minnesota. Not only does he have elite weapons to throw to, hopefully they re-sign Justin Jefferson and he comes back because he's an elite weapon for a rookie quarterback. But JJ McCarthy is also walking into a room with a head coach that was a former quarterback and wants to throw the ball. This offense underneath Kevin O'Connell has been pass first because he wants to maximize his quarterback. So yes, I believe in the development process here with JJ McCarthy more than I believe in it, again, with a guy like Drake May. And then with Brock Bowers at number 7, I just think that Brock Bowers at the tight end position was already at a disadvantage because I've said it on several videos. I don't like taking tight ends very high in Dynasty rookie drafts because it usually takes years for their value in Dynasty to blossom. I think it's going to take a while with the Raiders. Like, yes, he'll be the number 1 guy above Michael Mayer. That's not the problem. The problem is their quarterback is weak. With Gardner Minshew, he's only shown us throughout his entire career that he can only support one good pass catcher. Now, same argument applies to Brock Bowers that did with Malik Neighbors, which is there's no guarantee that Gardner Minshew's the quarterback next year. I bet he won't be. But just right now, and with the tight end position being so dependent on quarterback and usually taking longer to bud in fantasy football, I'm going to have him at number 7. Drake May at number 8 and Brian Thomas Jr. at number 9. Now, Drake May, I think, has just gotten the total short end of the stick out of the quarterbacks in this draft class. Being drafted in New England sucks. I hate it. I hate it because I think New England is going to experience real football karma the way they've treated Bill Belichick. And Jonathan Kraft, Robert Kraft's son, is running the team now. He's the one making the decisions, so I don't really trust him to be an owner-GM hybrid. I think there's going to be major development issues with Drake May, who is viewed as kind of a more raw guy with tremendous physical tools that I liked more than JJ McCarthy's, but his landing spot is not very good. Yes, they did draft wide receiver capital in this class that I actually do like some of their prospects that they got, but with Drake May, I don't trust it. And you'll see exactly how I feel about his wide receivers in the 2024 Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide, which is dropping today. So get your copy today for $10 as it's being sold at $15. By going to Underdog, using code FFN to do a $10 deposit, you'll get a copy of this Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide where I've evaluated 70 plus players, including IDP guys, in this Dynasty Rookie Draft class. Can't wait for you guys to get a ton of value out of it. There's comments below. You'll see the link to go get on Underdog today and get your free copy of the draft guide. Now, at number 9 with Brian Thomas Jr., in Jacksonville, like the landing spot theoretically sounds good, right? Like it sounds like a good thing because they don't have a clear number 1. Christian Kirk is not a big deep play guy. Gabe Davis was, but like Brian Thomas theoretically is a better player than Gabe Davis. I like it. I think that his landing spot is good. I just still don't believe that he's the level of prospect that a guy like Drake May or Brock Bowers was ahead of him. So he's going to continue to be around this 10 area here. Now, again, I would not personally draft Brian Thomas Jr. in rookie drafts myself. I discussed it on the draft guide. Another reason to get that draft guide. But Brian Thomas Jr., I do think, is still clearly a better wide receiver than guys like Ladd McConkey and Xavier Worthy. So that's why he'll be at number 9 here. Michael Penix Jr. at number 10 and Bo Nix at 11. Michael Penix Jr. is the shock of the draft, obviously, going to the Atlanta Falcons in the top 10. And it's just so muddy in Atlanta. Like, you don't know whether or not he'll start year 1. History over the last 10 years, and even longer than that, shows us that quarterbacks drafted inside the top 10 start year 1. The only 2 who haven't in the last 10 years are Patrick Mahomes and Trey Lance. Only 2. My gut tells me Kirk Cousins will start, but again, this guy is not going to be in training camp. So what if training camp rolls around and Atlanta's pass catchers like playing with Michael Penix? He's going to have more equity with the roster and with the locker room than Kirk Cousins does because Kirk Cousins has equity with the owner who gave him $100 million. That's all he has equity with. Doesn't have any with the players. He can't play with them right now. So this is just a muddy situation. Theoretically, over time, I like the weapons that are there. But if it takes him 2 years to get on the field, like some people think it might, he'll be 26 by then, and some of those weapons will be gone. So it's muddy. I think he's a decent guy to get in rookie drafts, but yeah, there's question marks here, obviously. And then Bo Nix, I think that Michael Penix is the better prospect, but I actually think he got the better landing spot. I really do. Like, not only just because there's no quarterback there that's going to compete with him, really, but Bo Nix does have a quarterback-friendly guy with Sean Payton. Now, I've seen arguments here that, like, Sean Payton's overrated. I can understand those arguments to a point. But the reality is that Bo Nix is a pretty decent prospect, and he's coming in to be groomed as Sean Payton's guy. Sean Payton's $20 million, per year guy at the head coach position for Denver. So you know he's going to do everything he can to develop Bo Nix into being a good player. So that's why I like his landing spot better than I like guys like Drake May, guys like Michael Penix, but definitely not the level of prospect that Penix is. So he's going to be down a spot behind him. Ladd McConkey at 12 and Xavier Worthy at 13. Now, Ladd McConkey, I've said this, I think he has a perfect landing spot in Los Angeles. You think about the last guy that Justin Herbert had as an elite fantasy option, Keenan Allen. Well, they're very similar playing styles. Ladd is smaller, but he's an expert route runner just like Keenan Allen is and was with Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert wants to have that guy that he can target heavily and kind of relying on as a safety blanket. I think Ladd McConkey could develop into that guy because he is a great route runner. So I really like Ladd McConkey's landing spot here. Xavier Worthy at 13 is obviously in the best situation for him. I couldn't argue a better landing spot for Xavier Worthy. And of course, we could say that anybody would be great with the Kansas City Chiefs. Xavier Worthy specifically, great landing spot. Going to be used as a Tyreek Hill downfield threat. He's not Tyreek Hill, but he will be used as a downfield threat that they haven't had since then. They tried it with Valdez-Scantling. They tried it with Justin Watson. They even tried it with Sky Moore. It didn't work because none of them had the speed that Xavier Worthy does. So I don't typically like super fast guys at the wide receiver position in fantasy football, but because he's playing with the best quarterback in the game and the best offensive mind in the game, yes, I do like Xavier Worthy in Dynasty rookie drafts. Keon Coleman at 14 and Trey Benson at 15. So Keon Coleman, a great landing spot. With Buffalo, will he be the wide receiver one immediately based on targets? I think so, because who do they have? Curtis Samuel and a bunch of like second to third tier guys behind that. So it's like Keon Coleman was the first pick for Buffalo, and rumor has it that Josh Allen wanted Keon Coleman specifically. That's why they kept trading back, because they knew nobody else was going to take him. So if him and Josh Allen hit it off right away, Keon Coleman's upside is going to be huge. Now, I have questions with the prospect I've outlined on film breakdowns on Patreon and just on videos. Aside from that, he was never a 1,000-yard guy in college, so I've got questions. But as far as being the preferred target, outside of Dalton Kincaid, yeah, it's there right away for Keon Coleman. Trey Benson at 15, it might take a year to see the upside, but I think you'll see it by year 2. Trey Benson is coming into an Arizona backfield with James Conner, who has been very effective. Like, I don't think he's going to be cast aside this year unless he gets hurt. That's the only way I can see Trey Benson being the number one clear guy in 2023. But again, James Conner's in his late 30s now. His contract is almost done. So the realistic thing here with Trey Benson is year 2, it's his backfield. So Trey Benson, I like the prospect. I've talked about him all offseason. I think he's a very good prospect. Has the side we need and the speed we need. So all we need is opportunity. And I think that probably comes year 2, which is why he's not a little bit higher on this list. Now, Ricky Pearsall rises to 16, and Xavier Legette is at 17. Now, we could argue that Ricky Pearsall should be higher based on draft capital, and Xavier Legette as well, and I can understand that. But the reality with Ricky Pearsall is that there's still 2 great wide receivers in front of him. Now, do they trade Brandon Ayuk? Do they trade Deebo Samuel? Both of them are possible. Rumor was they tried to trade both of them. Not together, but they were fielding calls on both guys during the draft. So the chances they trade one, definitely not out of the question. And they drafted him in the first round for a reason. They're expecting to be without Brandon Ayuk probably by next year. So Ricky Pearsall probably doesn't see as much upside in year 1. But in year 2, in an offense that is built on quick strikes with an accurate quarterback, when you combine that with a wide receiver who's a crisp route runner, can run any route in the route tree, I like the upside for Ricky Pearsall long term. And Xavier Legette, I like the prospect better. then Ricky Pearsall, then Ladd McConkey, then Xavier Worthy. The problem is landing spot. Theoretically, Carolina should be better, and Bryce Young should be better in year 2. They're trying to do a lot of things to make him better, surrounding him with better weapons, for example. But I just don't believe in this team. I don't believe in this team. I think they're horribly run, and it's going to make it tough to have an elite fantasy option. So the chances that he ever becomes an elite fantasy option with Carolina, I think are slimmer than a guy like Ricky Pearsall is because of the team fit. And that's the ultimate problem here with Xavier Legette. Jonathan Brooks at 18 and Troy Franklin at 19. Now, Jonathan Brooks was drafted first running back off the board to the Carolina Panthers, and it's the same thing that with Xavier Legette. Bad landing spot, bad ownership, and history has proven to us with bad teams that directly correlates to bad running back production in fantasy football. You can see that chart on the screen. The bottom 5 teams typically don't have a top 20 running back. So he's already at a disadvantage that he's going to have to overcome. And I don't believe that he can do it because he wasn't my favorite running back prospect in this class. That was Trey Benson. I don't really believe in Jonathan Brooks that much. But of course, with draft capital and with the upside that we did see from a limited time from Jonathan Brooks, I think he's got a shot. But I don't think that he's going to be a surefire prospect and surefire at fantasy as Trey Benson will be. Troy Franklin fell to the 4th round of the draft to the Denver Broncos, and that was a shock to me. I thought he was going to be a day 2 guy. Troy Franklin falls, and he arguably falls into a really good spot because he's with his college quarterback, Bo Nix. So the chemistry is built in there. So ideally, we'll get a poor man's version of Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow coming out of college with these 2 guys. Because he's not the prospect, obviously. Neither of them are the prospects that those guys are. So there's a good hope there, I think, with Troy Franklin. But there's still, like, questions as far as now what the team's commitment is because he's a 4th round pick. I think they'll want to make him work. So I think he's actually a pretty good sleeper in Dynasty rookie drafts. Rounding it out at 20 is Ja'Tavion Sanders, tight end of the Carolina Panthers. It feels weird to have 3 Panthers on the top 20, but I like 2 of the prospects a lot. Ja'Tavion Sanders, I liked him a lot. I hate the landing spot. There's no secret. Landing spot sucks. But again, theoretically, like Bryce Young improves year 2, and Ja'Tavion Sanders is clearly the tight end 1 in that room. He's the best athlete there. So I think there's good hope there that Ja'Tavion Sanders produces decently well in fantasy football right away. But Ja'Tavion Sanders is here just because I like the prospect more than I like the team fit. Now, let me know what you think of the rankings in the comments below and what questions you have about other guys that you did not see on the list today.